Hey, it's Coach Taylor from SmarterTeamTraining.com. It is not every day that most people get a chance to talk to an NFL strength coach, an NFL coach, even a professional level guy. For that matter, even some guys don't get a chance to talk to college level people. And you're talking to a guy now on the phone who has been at the highest level. At Georgia Tech, he's at the Buffalo Bills, and he's been at a whole bunch of other places as well. And I know he's making a big-time impact. I've had an opportunity to meet him at Georgia Tech and get a chance to see what he's doing firsthand, and I've had the opportunity to walk around and check out what the basketball program is doing, the football program, and he really opened the doors. It said a lot about him. I then got a chance to speak with him at a bunch of different places on the same stage at Tennessee and some other locations just around the country. This guy's doing a big-time job, making a very positive impact on the lives and the people he gets a chance to touch. So, Eric, man, it's a pleasure to have you on the phone, big dog. I'm looking forward to an outstanding conversation. I know you have an incredible amount of experience and a lot of stories to share, so I think this is going to be an awesome conversation, buddy.
Well, I appreciate you having me on. This will be exciting. I'm really excited about doing this, so I'm hoping I can help out some young strength coaches and some other people and give them some information to take back from this conversation, kind of like I do when I listen to yours, take stuff out of that. So I'm excited to do this.
Coach Ciano, before we get started, my man, I mean, we can post your bio and kind of outline where you've been and what you've done kind of things throughout your career. And I want to ask a question about passion. I mean, what got you started in this field? What keeps you going in this field? And I think that's one big part of our experience as professionals in this field that some people don't consider. I mean, you got to be able to really recharge those batteries and ignite that passion on a daily basis to really go through that, what a lot of people call the grind. I mean, and tell me a little about what you got going on now, my man.
Yeah, I mean, I guess my passion started when I went to college. I went to Springfield College and, was a student there. And after, 3 years of college, being able to be, a really, really good institution for strength and conditioning, we had great professors and a good Margaret Jones led the department. I really got a chance to see how I developed physically when I went to college. So when I got done my degree, I figured out this is what I really want to do. And probably the most influential guy that's really helped me along my way, to get to the NFL was my first guy that I had as an intern director was the head strength coach at Boston College named Mike Portamani. And he was probably the guy that taught me, what I need to know about strength and conditioning. He taught me about work ethic. He taught me about how you handle athletes. And then when I was done my internship, I mean, not many people would do this, but he took me on a trip and we went and visited Tennessee and Georgia Tech and Georgia and tried to find a graduate assistant position. And he got my foot in the door at Tennessee, and I was lucky enough to, get a chance to start out there and kind of go on from there. But, really it was nice to have somebody as a mentor that really, got me started in this profession and taught me what it takes to be good at this and how you motivate athletes and how you work with them. And, he's really been probably the most influential guy when I first got started out, and we still talk to this day, about all this stuff. So I think that really got me started on the passion end of it. And I think his passion really rubbed off on me and, it's helped me till this day.
If we're talking football players, and for the listeners here, we're doing this in the end of April. The conversation is actually occurring in the end of April. So we're looking at basically the tail end of the combine season, getting ready for the draft, and you're starting to go into mini camps. And I want to talk about conditioning. A lot of people always have questions about the strength side of preparation for football players. But if we're in this summer almost dynamic as far as that goes, I want to talk a bit about conditioning. Walk me through a little bit of the process here. Do you separate early in the summer? Do you separate positions out or needs group out, or do you just run everybody as a whole? Are you just on the field? Are you doing stuff in the pool? I mean, give me a bigger picture of what you're doing or how you're doing it, or again, what has worked for you as far as the conditioning side and the preparation?
It's a little bit different probably the NFL than it is the college setting. Due to the CBA, we have different sets of rules. So example, phase one is just with strength coaches, okay? So we have them for 2 weeks. We're allowed 4 days a week. And basically I'm allowed a 2-hour block with them. How I break that up is up to you in terms of, I can go an hour on the field, an hour in the weight room, 45, however you want to do it, you can set that up in that manner. Then you go into what's called phase two, where they're in the weight room with me, but then there's only an hour and a half on the field time. So I split that hour and a half time with the coaching staff. So generally, I'll get an hour in the weight room, and then I get 45 minutes on the field, and the coaches get 45 minutes on the field. And then we go into what's called phase three, which is what we consider OTAs, where basically that's practice. They have an hour and a half of practice on the field with the coaches, 3 days a week for the first 3 weeks, and then 4 days a week the last week. And then, we lift on top of that. And then the 1 day a week where it's just no practice, we lift and run on those days. So it's a little bit different setting than your college program or high school program. So we have to kind of adapt to that. But when our guys leave here, in January, February, whenever the guys are done, we send our guys home with, we do all of our workout stuff when the players are away from here through an off-season app called Coachman Plus. So all of our off-season stuff is available to our guys through their phone, through their iPad. They can go to any gym, any place, pull up their workout, pull up their running, and, perform at that time. If they don't understand it, there's a video there to help them out. If terminology is a little bit different, especially with some guys that maybe you haven't had for a few years, to get through that barrier. But our biggest thing, when we get back here, those first 2 weeks, is to make sure that our athletes are prepared enough to be on the field week 3 with the coaches. So conditioning is extremely important for our guys. Yes, conditioning is different between the skill guys and the linemen, obviously times, sometimes drills. But the biggest thing that I stress here with our guys in Buffalo that I think gets lost sometimes when you try to specialize too much is the team atmosphere. I really try to, when we lift, run, we do a lot of competition stuff too, or, we Iron Bills games, is that these guys get to know each other. We're all working towards a common goal. We're trying to improve as a team at the same time. So without, breaking them up too much. Now, when we do plyos and when we do some speed work, whatever else, hey, the linemen are pushing the sled, the speed guys, we're doing sprints, or if we're doing plyos, skill guys are doing box jumps and hurdle hops and those kind of things, and linemen maybe doing line drills and jumping ropes. So, yes, we break things up in that manner, but I try to keep the team atmosphere as much as I can. That's extremely important to me, for the guys to know each other in the locker room, know, hey, on Sunday, I've worked with this guy, I've sweated, with this guy in the locker room or in the weight room. I know what this guy's going to do, and that's made a huge benefit for us.
When an athlete comes to you, and in your scenario, they could have been traded, they could have been on the injury situation, coming off of a free agent, type of scenario. I want to know how you kind of screen them before you get them started. When you meet with an athlete who you're going to potentially work with, what are some things you're looking for when you're screening? Are you meeting with the physical therapist or the athletic trainer and sitting down and having a conversation? Or are you bringing an ortho doc in and actually going through some of the musculoskeletal situations? I mean, walk me through that program a little bit as far as what do you need to know before actually getting started with somebody?
That's actually a great question. And a perfect example is I think we have 7 new guys on our roster right now that, were new additions either through trade or through free agency, whatever else. So the first thing we do is we go back, depending on, what year the player is. If he's recently, we'll go back and look at an FMS score from the combine. The next thing I do is I sit down with the trainers and say, okay, I go over each guy. What do I need to know about this guy? I mean, what's the number one factor for injury is a previous injury. So go back. Has this guy had any issues before? Ankles, back, hip, shoulders, or anything that I need to know? Are there any, limitations that you see right out the get-go? So we go through that with the training staff, and they have all the information from the doctors, whatever. So they kind of lead us in the right direction. But the biggest thing that I do is to sit down with those guys. Before we start, we sit down and we say, okay, this is what we're about. Knowing a lot of the times what team they came from gives us a pretty good idea of, what they've done in the past. Also, what college they went to kind of gives us a good idea of, what they've been doing. But the biggest thing is sitting down with those, talking to them about what we're going to do, but get a good idea about their training history. If he's a young player in the league, how many years if a guy came out early, how many years did he have in college? Stuff that we look at the combine, hey, how was your high school program? How many years did you train there? Training experience is big for us. What do you know in terms of the lifts? If it's cleans or squats, you're going to get guys in here that, haven't squatted ever. That's the unique thing about the NFL is you get so many different guys from so many different backgrounds that, we have to know about these guys. And, we have to make sure we put them in the correct situations, but still doing the things that we need to do. So we've simplified our program probably greatly from what we did in college. So the biggest thing that, we do with our guys is, we hold them accountable, we keep our program simple, and we work hard. And I think those are, the keys to our success.
I want to walk down that road of the strength training conversation. I have a couple of them we're going to bounce around throughout this conversation or this dialogue, if you wouldn't mind. I want to ask you, if throughout your career, are there strength training exercises that you avoid, or for that matter, even some of the strength exercises that you encourage in your program that have really helped you become successful?
I think the biggest difference for me is like in the college setting, I had guys you knew for minimum, maybe 3 years, but you had them for probably up to 5 years. So in the college setting, I would say I was a lot more Olympic lifting based because I had the time to teach. I had the time to slow it down, teach guys, if we started with a broomstick or with the bar, and make sure that, we could crawl before we could walk. In this setting, it's a little bit different because I've had guys as short as 15 minutes before and been cut. Everybody comes from a different background. A lot of these guys, some programs didn't do Olympic lifts or didn't do versions of whatever else. So we have had to really simplify what we do and say, okay, these are our core lifts. This is what we're going to do. We have to be good at these, okay? And that's helped us. I love snatches and power cleans and jerks and whatever else, but, at the NFL level, you don't have as many people on staff as you had in college. So I made sure what we can do, we can coach, no matter what the setting is. If there's 40 guys in the room, if there's 70 guys in the room, we have to be able to coach it correctly so an athlete doesn't get hurt in here, and do it the right way so that we're achieving the benefits that we want to get out of it. If we're just doing it to do it because it looks good on paper, then that's not going to help benefit us. But exercise that I avoid, I don't know if there's anything that I would necessarily avoid. I just think in this setting here, it's a lot more simple so that I can teach it, they can pick it up, we can coach it, and we can do it correctly. I think that's the biggest thing. So, we're a clean, squat, bench kind of team, and those are our core lifts and the things that we do, and we're going to be good at those. Now, do we do one-arm dumbbell snatch? Absolutely. Do we do trap bar pulls? Absolutely. Do we do clean pulls? Yes. So we do a lot of those versions, but our cores are very simple.
One component of what we do when we go through our traditional education, whether it's an undergrad or grad school, and then go into certification, that I think is a miss, is the motivation that needs to be set up throughout the course of the system. And you kind of alluded to it with the Iron Bills game. You got to have a little bit of a plan throughout the course of the year, how you're going to motivate and encourage people. And then also on a day-to-day basis, just high-fiving or having an open-door policy or just encouraging the team dynamic. How have you developed a motivational plan to really help encourage your athletes to achieve their own greatness?
Everybody's motivated by something different, whether it's money, a new contract, family, being a starter, being a star in the NFL. But as a strength coach, you kind of have to really find what motivates each one of those guys and use it. Some guys are rah-rah guys and love that stuff, and some guys, the guys that aren't. So you have to motivate all these guys in a different way. But from a team setting, we've created something called the Iron Bills Games. And our off-season program is, extremely competitive, and it's great. Our guys do an unbelievable job. It's brought our team together. Every week, if you go in our building, the videos of these guys doing their weekly Iron Bills game stuff is on the TVs, the winners on the TV throughout the entire building, all week long. We have bulletin boards, lifter of the week, honorable mention, Iron Bills Games champion. Our guys draft teams, okay? The draft is posted. So, there's 7 teams, and there's a captain and lieutenant on each team. And every week, we do an Iron Bills game event, and all the results are posted, from first place to last place. The teams are set up on the board so they know which team's the first place to last place. And we end the last day of mini camp, and the winning team, when they come to training camp, there's no conditioning test, and they get a front row parking spot for the season, which is big here in Buffalo, obviously due to the weather, in which we woke up this morning, there was snow on the ground. But it's really helped us motivate these guys because, NFL athletes are wired a little different. They love to compete. So if you put them in those settings, you're going to get a different, we call it championship effort. If we want championship effort, we have to make these guys compete on a daily basis. And what we've been able to do is also use our competition with our conditioning sessions. So we call bonus points Monday. So instead of just running gassers and counting out times, now it's competitive. And it's amongst your teams. So we've got a whole new effort that, you may not have gotten in the past if you had just done your, simple conditioning drill. So we try to make everything we do in a competitive manner so that we can get the best out of our athletes, and they have fun when they're in here. Now, it's hard. There's no question about it. But it's given them something when they go to the lunchroom and they're sitting at the table, they sit and talk about it. They come to me all the time. They get upset. How was I not lifter of the week? We have a criteria for lifter of the year and lifter of the week or what it is, but the number one factor that always determines all these guys work hard, but the number one factor that always gets them is, did you make the guys around you better? And that's our number one factor. Hey, I expect you to work hard. That's your job. But did you make the guys in your group, work harder? Do something maybe they might not have done. And that's kind of our determining factor. And that's, when we do lift of the week with these guys, that probably comes down to every coach on our staff gets a card. Everybody gets to write down 2 names, offense, defense. The guys that win it, win it. And that's how we go with it. But it's created a new atmosphere for our guys. It's fun when they come in here. It gives them something to talk about. They're all working towards a common goal, and it's been great. And they get to know their teammates. A lot of times at this level, there's guys in the locker room that may be sitting next to them. They have no idea who they are, where they came from. It's giving those guys a chance to show themselves so everybody knows each other.
I'm sure when you were in the college level, and even now probably, you're getting high school coaches reaching out to you, parents, potentially even players reaching out to you for your summer manual. And when I was in the college sector, and even now, I even have interns now, the first thing they go to is obviously the pro summer manuals, and they want to rip through that and learn all that stuff. And then they go and work with a 12 or 13-year-old, and they're trying to implement it. And I don't know if it necessarily has a great I don't know if there's a real parallel. I mean, what should some high school football coaches be considering when they're developing their strength and conditioning programs? I mean, when they're looking at what you're doing, is there definitely a difference between working with a pro guy, a guy that's gone through a college career, or a kid that's, that freshman, sophomore in high school? And what kind of considerations would you make for developing a program for a younger athlete that's in the sport of football?
The number one piece of advice I could give a high school strength coach is, number one, keep it simple. All right, stay off the internet. You don't have to go on YouTube and watch videos of some of this crazy stuff these guys do. Keep it simple. Do what you do well. And the biggest thing I think people get caught up in is you have to coach what you know. If you don't know how to coach the snatch and you don't know how to coach the jerk, then you don't do those lifts. If you have 50 guys in a room and you're the only strength coach, for you to do those Olympic lifts, which are, tough lifts to learn, if you can't coach it, you can't do it. And I also believe that facility plays a huge role in your program design at the high school level, and I believe your head coach plays a huge role in your program design at the high school level. How much time you have in the weight room, what you're able to do. I mean, if you only have one platform and you have 50 guys on your team and everybody has to hang clean, it's not going to work. So I think the thing that high school coaches get caught up in is they see, hey, these big schools are doing this and the NFL teams are doing that, but at the end of the day, if you kept your program simple and you focused on the multi-joint movements, okay, and you do them well, your guys are going to get stronger, they're going to get faster, they're going to improve. At the end of the day, you're going to see more success on the field, and your guys are going to stay healthier. You don't have to do all this crazy stuff. I think that's where everybody gets caught up, and there's too much information out there now. There's too much technology. There's too much stuff, and it's confusing people. Instead of, if you grab the book, The Strongest Cells Survive, and you implemented that program right now, I'll guarantee you'll still work. Because it's to the point, it's a plan, it's a program, and those exercises have stood the test of time. So my advice to high school strength coaches is coach what you know, be organized, hold your guys accountable, make sure they're showing up, make sure they're not just, pushing the pencil. Do what you're supposed to do, but do it the right way. And take the time to teach. I think those would be the most important pieces of advice I could give somebody.
I want to ask you a question here about relationships with you, the coaching staff, you and the players, you and the athletic trainers, more specifically tailoring it to the player approach. How do you approach the different even position or personalities in their mentalities towards the physical preparation, the physical development within the team dynamic? I mean, I'm sure there's a couple different players throughout your career on a team component that might just had a little bit of a different approach, and it could be overly aggressive or maybe not so much. I mean, how do you approach them on an individual basis to really enhance the team dynamic and help make sure the team's going in the same direction?
I think the biggest thing at our level, we're working with athletes, is you have to be able to sell what you do to these guys. All right, it takes them a while to trust you. So that's the number one thing that you have to earn from these players here is trust. They have to trust that you have their best interest at heart, and that you're trying to help them and you're not trying to hurt them. That's probably the number one factor. And once you've earned that, it's a little bit easier. Now, not every guy is a weight room guy, but you have to convince those guys that this is going to help prolong your career. This is going to help keep you on the field. At the end of the day, this is going to make you and your family more money. This is going to make you more endorsements and those kind of things. So we have to sell that to our athletes on top of, with the team setting. So, but when you have a good bunch of guys like we have, and guys come in from other teams and they see how our guys work, it makes it a lot easier, because we, being here now, 5 off seasons going into my 6th season, we've kind of created a culture here where our guys work hard. I mean, there's no question about it. I mean, I would never question our guys in terms of their work ethic and what they do. So it makes it easier now when other guys come in because they see, hey, this is what these guys do. This is what these guys are about. And they hop right in. But it's competitive. It's fun. We work hard. We get our stuff done. And we've had success, and that's helped us probably tremendously. I mean, motivating the guys is probably the number one thing, but you have to be able to sell your program to you at any level. Our big thing in our weight room is strong wins. And our guys, we lift a lot. In season we lift a lot. And at first that was new to our guys, but now that they've seen the success of being able to stay healthy and stay on the field and, been the top two the last 2 years in the NFL in terms of the least amount of guys on IR, they kind of understand why we're doing it now. So that has really been probably one of the biggest factors to help us is as long as they see the results and they see themselves getting better and they feel better at the end of the season, they say, man, I felt great last year. At the end of the season, I felt strong. I was in good shape. I stayed healthy. That goes a long way with these guys. So that's what you have to do. You have to be a salesman and educate them on this is what we're doing and this is why we do it.
Even though everybody on that team in that locker room is a football player, there are different physical tolls that the individuals are going through, whether it's a linebacker, an offensive lineman, a quarterback, a running back. Are there some key areas, and I'll just use the term football players as a whole, that you focus on when you're strengthening? I mean, we go through this concept in our field about ACL injury prevention and then core and low back awareness and even now training the head, neck, and upper back, grip strength, rotator cuff type stuff, that shoulder dynamic. I mean, are there things that you kind of put on your, we'll call it weak link checklist when you're taking different positions through? And just walk me through that if you wouldn't mind, just as far as keeping kids healthy.
I think for the athletes, for the most important thing is I want to strengthen the hips and glutes. I think that is the number one area for us, and that's going to come from our pulls and our squats and our single leg squats and single leg movements and those kind of things. I think that's number one to help improve athletic performance. Now, on top of that, we spend a lot of time in warm-up focusing on hips, shoulders, all right, traps and neck. I mean, I think those would be three of the, obviously core, but that's, obviously that's understood. But I think those other three areas are huge areas where we implement that stuff in warm-up and everybody does it. So when we do our hip series, we do it with our mini bands, or if we're doing it on the ground or it's body weight or however we're doing it, everybody does it. That's a stationary warm-up. And we're doing our shoulder prehab. Everybody does it. That's a stationary warm-up. Core, obviously, we're always going to do. We're going to do that every day. So, but I really believe in neck and traps, that is a staple right now with everybody in the league, especially with so much information out there now that you can be educated on the concussions and those kind of things. So those would be the staple areas that you have to take the time to spend. And a lot of the stuff we do in warm-up and we do first, so we know it's done correctly and we know that it got done. If you put it at the end of the workout, a lot of times it's not going to get done, or it's not going to get done the way it should be performed. So do it early, do it right, and do it, make sure it's monitored and make sure, we're getting done what we want to get done. But I would say hips is huge, shoulders, neck and traps, along with core.
I know you guys go through a very strenuous game day. I know you guys have intense practices. I know the guys are working hard in the weight room and running and those types of things. And even beyond that, or even before that, we'll call that, I want to talk a little bit about recovery from the standpoint of eating, sleeping, hydrating, massage. I mean, we can go through the game and make a list that fills up a dry erase board, I'm sure, pretty quickly. But what kind of recovery strategies are you encouraging the guys to go through after a hard workout or even after just even a day off? I mean, for that matter, everyone's really concerned about what do you do when you're really getting after it. I'm also kind of concerned about what we do on a day off. Are you allowing their mind to relax? Are you scheduling days where they can only watch film and just get off their body or kind of walk me through that bigger picture if you wouldn't mind.
I think recovery for us, the number one factor that's helped us succeed is nutrition. I think that's the biggest area for us. We have a nutritionist, Dan Labert, on my staff who has been outstanding, does a great job working with the athletes. The Bills organization is amazing in terms of the things that we're allowed to do through nutrition, the things that we're allowed to make accessible to our players. That has helped us tremendously from, shakes at breakfast in the locker room to take-home snacks to we have a juice station in our cafeteria. Our cafeteria by far is the best in the NFL, which was just really renovated last year. The food in our cafeteria is amazing, but nutrition and the education process that Dan does with our guys, from it's on every table in the cafeteria, it's on every TV in the cafeteria, it's on every TV in the building, it's above the urinals, it's in the bathroom, anything and any opportunity you can take to educate these guys on nutrition and hydration, he's done, which is probably the most important factor for us in terms of recovery. Now, after that, cold tub, huge for us. Stretch, massage is very, very big at our level. Our guys have a bunch of people that they use. We definitely encourage that tremendously, as well as foam rolls and sticks and tennis balls. And, we have all the accessibility to all that stuff. We encourage it tremendously, but I think the number one factor, I would start nutrition, then cold tub, and then I would get into all my, soft tissue work and stretching and all those kind of things. So recovery is a very, very, very important part of this entire process, and it's getting a lot more. I mean, there's so much out there in non-recovery, and there's stuff every day. So trying to stay on the cutting edge of, I saw something the other day about now they have recovery sheets that you sleep with, and there's recovery suits, and there's all this stuff out there. So you have to really find what works for you and works for your guys and what your guys like and kind of stay on top of that. But as long as they're doing stuff, it's probably a little easier at our level to stay on top of them in terms of that stuff because they understand that basically their body is their job and taking care of it is extremely important and staying on the field is extremely important. So it's probably a little easier from our setting.
I know that you're a pretty approachable guy, for that matter, a very approachable guy. When we get a chance to speak at events or get an email, a text message, getting a chance to talk to you on the phone, you and I have done this many times, and I think it's an admirable quality that you have there, my man. There's not a lot of coaches at the college level or the pro level or even the international level, I can speak to that will even return a phone call or an email, or even when you go to a presentation sometimes, they're not very approachable when you get a chance to walk up and just ask basic questions. I mean, how important is it for you to give back to what the field through multiple avenues? Again, even just getting up early for the listeners. Eric came into work early to do this radio show, just to have a general conversation to give back to people who are willing to help themselves. I mean, how important is that to you, Eric, as far as giving back to just people who are interested in just becoming better themselves as professionals and hopefully inspiring greatness in others?
I think it's extremely important. I love being able to help somebody out and help their program out, and whether it's through email and they have a question or because you know what, at the end of the day, when I go to these clinics or speak at a Hammer clinic or one of those clinics, I enjoy sitting down and actually learning from these other people. If I can take something for somebody else, and a lot of these guys that I help out, they actually end up helping me out throughout the process because they may raise another question that I didn't think about or something like that. So I think it's great to keep an open line of communication. You can never know enough. We always have to continue to grow. We've got to stay on the cutting edge. There's so much stuff out there. And if there's stuff out there that I can help somebody with, absolutely, I'm going to try to help out any way I can. But on top of that, you may end up helping me out at the end of the day because something I didn't think about, or you're doing something a better way than we are. So you have to be open to everything. You never know everything. You have to really continue to study and read and watch videos and do that kind of stuff and be able to figure out what's beneficial for your program. That's the most important part. But any way I can help somebody else, I would love to help out.
Well, Eric, I know you're a busy guy, my man. I don't want to keep you on the phone here too long. I know you got a lot of things to get done today. We talked about that a little bit before the show. But again, man, I appreciate the opportunity here to get a chance to talk to you, my man. If anybody had any questions about anything we discussed here, maybe they just wanted to reach out to you from a professional networking standpoint, or who knows, internships, or just connecting with somebody else down the line here. How could they go about reaching out to you and finding out more information about what you have going on, my man?
Probably the easiest way is through email. My email address is Eric, ERIC.Ciano, CIANO, @bills.nfl.net. Email's probably the easiest way. That way I can get back and come in early and do that kind of stuff and be able to read them and get to everybody. But yeah, if you want to send me an email, I'll help out any way I can.
Well, again, Eric, man, I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you, buddy. I know you're a big-time dude. It's cool to call you a friend, my man. It's great to be able to use you as a resource when we get a chance to meet up. Obviously, when you come down here to the Ravens area of the country, it'd be great to meet up and talk shop. And if there's anything I can obviously do to help you guys, man, I would do it in a heartbeat because of your passion to help others, my man. Again, keep doing what you're doing. It's great to see how far you've come, and I look forward to hearing great things coming from you down the road here, buddy.
Thank you, Rob. I really appreciate having me on the show, and thank you very much. I appreciate it.